before I take you through the garden, I need to talk to you. Hey everyone, Natissa here on the subtropical Florida Gulf Coast, Zone 10. So honestly, this season has been very tough for me, and we've just begun. It is true, here in the subtropics of Florida, you can easily garden year-round, but it is our summertime, which we are approaching very quickly on, that is our hardest time to garden in. And you can absolutely do it, but yeah, I'm struggling. In a nutshell, it is hot, I am tired, I really don't want to be going out in the garden, and I'm feeling a lot of overwhelm with the large space I have, which you don't really see everything in the garden tours just because there's so much to show. I can't show it all, but you know, that needs tending to. A lot of different plants have their needs. Trying to keep things watered and mulched and fertilized, and that means going out there when that, like I said, is hard enough. And never before until this particular year, in this point in the season, I've never considered just quitting a season, but this time I actually thought about it. Because I know this is a hard season for me, but I noticed something was a little more off when my sunflowers bloomed this year. I was so excited to actually have some sunflowers, and when they bloomed, yeah, they looked beautiful. I did stop to look at them, but I just noticed that in my heart, I wasn't fully in the moment. And my mind was just so overwhelmed with looking around me, seeing the mess, seeing everything I had to do. It was already getting hot at this point. Not much rain, which is a problem. I just recognized that I wasn't present in the garden and enjoying what was happening. I was feeling more anxiety and frustration and the feelings of wanting to give up. And I was also thinking to myself, why is this happening? And I do notice something that is different this time around is I'm making videos, and I love doing it. And it is so wonderful. It is great records for me, and it's also something I feel that I should be doing. So that's what's driving me to continue with this, of course. But yeah, when you do show your garden or anything in life, you get a little self-conscious with how things are. And I know that has been on my mind with how crazy everything looks right now. And that can be a good thing, because sometimes those feelings can help move us forward in bettering ourselves. But at the same time, I need to be realistic about who I am, how I deal with things, and just how things are going. I just need to balance the two, because how a gardener feels is how your garden is going to grow. So instead of giving up, I was thinking, what can I do now to make things better for me and my garden this season? And the first thing I am realizing, not only in the garden, but actually in my life, is having a realistic mindset. The reality is, this is a very difficult season for us here in the subtropics of Florida. It is hot, humidity, the bugs are everywhere. For me, where I live, it just hasn't been raining much. I have very sandy soil where it's hard to keep it moist enough. And with all this going on, with a lot of space that I have and a lot of plants and just everything, and then feeling tired because of the heat and everything, it's just overwhelmed. I am recognizing that all my resources, whether it be material or just how I feel, everything is being spread very thin. So of course, for next year, I do want to maybe make better plans on how to make that work, because I do have some gardening goals I do want to accomplish as well. And that's something I have to sit and think about and plan for next year. But for now, this is what I need to do. So with looking at the reality of a difficult gardening season, and looking at the reality that it's just me, I only have so much to give, I need to look at what's working. And just the biggest example I have right now is in the garden with the bit of watering I can do and in keeping moisture in the ground. I mean, it's very obvious, but I'm noticing, especially side by side in the garden that we'll be seeing on the tour, is that a lot of the drought tolerant plants are working pretty well. Also, you'll be seeing on the tour, and I'm coming to accept, is yes, the garden is messy. I also have a lot of dead plants out there. I've mentioned in my first spring tour that my spring and summer garden is never a clean slate because there's a lot of crossover. But there's also purpose in why it is that way. I showed you in the last tour the tung ho plant that was dying. A lot of my leaf-footed bugs, which is a pest in the garden, have been congregating there. So we've been using that plant as what they call a trap plant. So that way, when all those pests go there, we can get rid of them. So I have other things in the garden that have been dying back, like our sunflowers, and they've also been congregating there. So there is a purpose to this madness. And one of my garden goals is to really use what we have on the property to manage our space, and that's just a part of it. This is not meant to be some beautiful botanical garden. I mean, I think it's beautiful, especially in its peak in some points of each season. But ultimately, this is for our household to produce as much as we can, learn how to grow our own food. For example, even the chop and drops. You're going to see a lot of plants just chopped and dropped to the ground. Yes, I could make it look nicer, but again, I don't want to be outside. It's too hot, too many bugs around. But in my mind, in this mindset that I am developing, there is purpose in that. That is meeting my goals to chop and drop and let it break down on the ground. It is providing mulch for my ground now in the summertime with all this heat, and it is breaking down for my plants next year for fall and winter. It's creating good soil. I'm also reminding myself that sometimes gardening tasks don't mean going out to the garden. For instance, I have so many seeds inside that I need to put away because I love saving seed. I think it's such an important skill and habit to do, along with buying seed, of course. But I have so much I gotta put away. This is the time to do it. I also shred a lot of cardboard and paper products that we would just normally throw away. And this is for future composting and maybe even mulching the ground with it if need be. I even did some processing of herbs. I had the mullein outside, cut some leaves of that and dehydrated them. There are other things that we can do that's going to benefit our garden in the future and just benefit us when times are tough. And that also includes even just evaluating the season. This is a rough season for me. Maybe you have a rough season too, where things aren't going right. Instead of just throwing up your hands, feeling frustrated and walking away from it, maybe this is the time to evaluate what's going on and what you can do differently for now and for next season. Overall in the garden, it is perfectly natural to have failures, have successes, because that's just the way it goes. And some of it we can better ourselves with and make things better in the garden. And sometimes it's just changing factors that are happening out in our garden that we just need to learn and adjust to. So the bottom line is that acceptance of what is happening, how I am feeling, is giving me a clearer mind and is starting to build my joy of the garden. Even though it is impossible to show you everything that is happening in the garden because there's just so much and I can't seem to show it in a timely manner, I hope what you do see will at least give you an idea of, for yourself as well, of what I am learning, realizing, and accepting. So let's go take a look out in the garden and see what's going on.